Thank you, Roman. So tell me this. How is your voice working for you? Oh, and everybody gets real serious and wonder, well, that's why I'm here, right? Does it help you? Or does it hurt you? Or maybe you're not so sure. How do you know whether it's doing the job for you? We're going to spend some time today and cover some topics, two major areas. One is how to get your voice to sound the best that it can sound, given that the instrument that you have. And then once we have you sounding like Oprah, then we'll move on to some delivery techniques with the voice that I think will be useful to all of you. So hang on to your hats, we're going to get started. Now that you all have Meryl Streep's or Harrison Ford's voice, what do you do with it to make sure that it's effective? There are 7 different vocal delivery factors that I'm going to cover here, and I hope that you can stay with me because they're going to move quickly. One of them, and the most important one, again, is pitch. Now, it was sort of a joke in my intro that Toastmasters just think vocal variety is don't be a monotone. But certainly that is one of the important things, right? If I were to give a speech saying, today's speech will have 3 topics in it, and the topics will be how to break a speech into 3 topics, and how to go from topic number 1 to topic number 2, and then how to go from topic... I mean, it almost doesn't matter if the words are funny, because you tune out after about 5 words, right? Because it's all the same. But you all know that. You're all Toastmasters, and nobody wants to be a monotone, so you figure out how to avoid that. But does changing the pitch just for its own sake make any sense? Does it really help? Well, any of you ever gone, and I hope I don't offend anyone, has anyone ever gone to the mall and heard the following conversation? Well, we just went to the mall, and then we met Brad, and then Brad told us that he likes Judy, and then with that little lift at the end of it, you know, we all know what that is, right? And it's kind of silly, but that changed pitch. So have we fixed being a monotone? Not at all, right? You've just turned it into a different kind of pattern. So changing pitch for pitch's sake is not what we're trying to do. It's changing pitch for a particular plan. So let's say that we're speaking in that optimum pitch range that we established with the exercise. Why might you want to speak higher than normal? You can get more emotion. For me, one of the easiest ways to describe it is that it adds excitement to what you're doing. Let's say that you're a sales team, or you're a manager of a sales team, and you have a whole bunch of regions all across the country, and you just got the sales numbers for the year and found out you're the best sales team in the whole company, and you want to tell your team that, right? You would come in and it might go something like this. You know, team, we just got our sales numbers for the year, and we are the highest selling team of the whole company, right? See what I did with my voice? I raised the pitch of the voice, and that brought excitement to the message. If instead I had just said, and we are the highest selling team in the company, it just doesn't have the impact. So raising the pitch above that default to add excitement is something that you can do if in your speech you want to add excitement. And it may well be your topic. That's a good thing for you to do. So what might be a case where you might want to lower your pitch a little bit more than normal? For emphasis? Yeah, for impact, right? To kind of make sure that somebody gets that maybe this is more important. Let's say you're that same sales manager and you have a new sales program coming up and you're introducing it. And your sales team is already the #1 team, so they're going to be skeptical about anything that's brand new. But you believe that this plan is really going to work. So and you might come in and you say, we're going to introduce a new sales program this month, and I know that this is going to be a big change, but I believe it's really going to work. Right? What I just did was I lowered the pitch of, in effect, the punchline of what I just said, and it kind of added some power, some impact to what I just said. If I just said, and I believe it's really going to work, it's just not the same as saying, and I believe it's really going to work, right? You can tell the impact is there. So you can high for excitement, low for impact, right? Now, the most important thing, however, about varying pitch, I haven't even talked about yet, and that's to clarify meaning. Let's say I'm going to take a 3-word sentence. I am excited. Right? If I just said, I am excited, that's a declarative sentence and everybody gets that. But if I change the pitch on some of these words, I change the meaning of the sentence altogether. If instead of saying, I am excited, I say, I am excited, that means something a little different, right? It means, I don't know about you, but I am excited. So there's some emphasis there about what it is that I'm trying to say. So what I did was I raised the pitch on I, and I got a little bit stronger meaning of what I was just saying. So is raising the pitch always going to do that? Well, it depends on how you raise the pitch. If I do it this way, I am really excited, or I am excited, right? I raised the pitch on I, but it was sort of this little lilt, right? And it turned it into a question immediately. And all of a sudden, I completely reversed the meaning of the sentence, right? I am excited means, are you crazy? Of course I'm not excited. I hate this, right? So just a different treatment of the pitch made a whole different meaning to the sentence. Same thing with am. I am excited. I don't care what Paul said about me. I am excited. He was just wrong, right? So there's some emphasis there that works. You can do the same, I am excited, and all of a sudden it's back to a question again. So pitch variation can change the entire meaning of the sentence. Let's look at the last word, excited. This is one of my favorites. I call it the Eeyore effect. I am excited. Right? Everybody knows Eeyore and the Winnie the Pooh, right? I'm excited, right? Clearly Eeyore isn't. Eeyore is never excited, right? But by just dropping the pitch on excited, you change the whole meaning of the sentence. And everybody who understands how English language works gets that. So pitch is important. High for excitement, low for impact, but all the way within a sentence to make sure that the words really mean what you want them to mean. Okay, that was fun. Next factor, volume. How loud should you speak? Well, certainly there's a default volume that you use for most of your speeches. It has to be loud enough, excuse me, so that the people in the back row can hear, because if they can't hear, they'll leave. Or if they're in a meeting and they can't leave, they'll start looking at their phone. But if they can't hear you, then it clearly, your speech doesn't make any sense. But it can't be so loud that Anna in the front row starts putting her hands over her ears because I'm blowing her eardrums out, right? So there's a certain default volume level that just needs to be something you're comfortable with. And sometimes that depends on the room, right? If the room is big enough, the reason I'm mic'd here is I want to be loud enough for Tom in the back to hear, but not so loud that I blow Anna away here. So that will particularly help. Now, but would there ever be cases where you might want to vary how loud you talk? Well, sure. What might be a reason to speak louder than normal? When you're teaching, yeah. To get the students' attention, maybe, yeah. There's a certain power in loudness, right? So I've got a little example here. Let's see if I can remember this one. It's also kind of a management thing. This is sort of a rabble-rouser speech to your troops. We have the people, we have the tools, we have the desire, and we're going to do this. Right? Now that's very different than if I said, we have the people, we have the tools, we have the desire, and we're going to do this. Right? It has a whole different meaning. So loudness certainly brings power, and there will be times, perhaps, in some of your speeches, depending on the topic, where that kind of power is really important. Use it judiciously. If you talk that way all the time, then people will just say you're weird and they'll leave. Or they'll never come back and hear you again. Right? So loud can be really important. What might be a reason to speak softer than normal? I'm sorry?
Sad news.
Sad news, perhaps. It might be sad. Yeah. There's another one that I like to use as well. Yes? Yes, confidentiality. That's good. To get someone's attention. Roseanne wins the gold star for this one. All right. So let me do the following sentence. Let's say it's your same sales team, and you've got this new product that you're rolling out, and you know it's a winner. And you might say, you know, we all know that we're really prepared, but we have a secret weapon. Right? So you could just see the room got quiet. Did you see? It's like everybody stopped moving and they listened and they got on the front edge of their seats. And there will be times when you want to do that. And actually, soft can be more attention-getting than loud, right? Because people hear loud all the time, but soft can be, it's one of those things that doesn't happen very often. Now, clearly you don't want to do that like every 2 minutes, because then, again, it doesn't make any sense. But if you have a particular point where you really want to suck somebody in, this is going to be important, right? A soft can really do that. And so, but overall, loud, soft, change it up a little bit to make sure that your audience stays with you. All right, diction. How you pronounce your words. Now, what's a decent approach to default? Well, for most of us who are Toastmasters, a conversational style probably works pretty well. The way that you would talk to your friends works pretty well in here. Now, if on the other hand, you're known to kind of slur your words when you're around your friends and they still humor you and that's okay, right? Then maybe you need some attention. But for most of us, I think we know how to do a conversational style in an understandable way. But there will be some cases where you want to exaggerate your diction, right? What might some of those be? Here's one, just to make sure someone understands a particularly critical point. Let's say you're doing a training exercise to the bomb squad, all right? And let's say you get to the one point in your talk where you're going to say, you're talking about a particular bomb you're disabling, and right here it is extremely important that all 3 switches are enabled simultaneously. Right? See what I did with my diction? Now, if I had just said it's extremely important at this point that all 3 switches are enabled simultaneously, and I kind of went on with that, you just probably blew somebody up who wasn't paying attention. Right? But instead, if you said all 3 switches simultaneously, that diction, exaggerated diction, is going to be really important to make sure they get exactly what you said. Now, you won't use that for every point along your speech, but for those really important ones that you need to make sure they get everything that you said, that's really good. Okay, so another reason to exaggerate your diction is just the size of the room you're in. Right? If any of you have ever given a speech in a big auditorium that's 40 rows deep, your diction has to be a little more clear than it would be in a smaller room, right? That my diction in this room is going to be a little more clear than if I was just carrying on a conversation with the front row. And the reason is just to make sure that the people in back hear all the consonants that actually make the words understandable. So a big room. Now, if you're mic'd, does that go away? Actually not. What I've found over the years is that amplified sound, because most sound systems clip a little bit at the high end, and the high end frequencies are where all the consonants are, and that's what make the words understandable. So even if you're mic'd, it's probably a good thing to exaggerate your diction a little bit for a big room. Okay. The other one refers back to the past point where we're talking about soft. This is a discovery I made myself. I won't claim to be the first person who ever did, but I haven't read anything about it. The softer you speak, the more clear your diction has to be. If I'm talking loud, I can be just as sloppy as I want with my diction, and you're going to get every word. But if I'm talking soft, it has to be a lot clearer. So if you go soft, go crisp as well, and I think that will help with your diction. Okay, next factor, delivery speed. How fast should I talk? This is a tough one. You need to talk fast enough and slow enough to be you. Right? And each of us has our own speed. You're getting a sense of what mine is. Some people just speak a little more slowly, and that's who they are, and that's fine, right? So whatever it is that you're comfortable with, as long as you don't see people either feeling assaulted or falling asleep, the delivery speed is probably pretty good. But again, are there instances where you might want to speed up? Yeah. Let's go back to the reasons you might want to use a higher voice, because it can tend to be a little bit similar. Let's say that you've found out that your big budget proposal to the board of directors got approved, and you're coming down and Joe, can you believe it? Our budget is approved. Oh my God, we're going to do this, right? So my delivery speed got a lot faster. right? Now, you can do as much of that as you think is appropriate to the degree of excitement that you want to bring. But a little bit more rapid-fire delivery will bring excitement to your message as well. Can you imagine why you might want to talk more slowly than normal? This was a little harder one, but I think it may get to Joe's point about tough news. If you were to come in, let's say that you worked for a company for 15 years and most of your friends had too, and you just found out that they're closing the doors. All right? Chances are you wouldn't come into your to your team and say, "Well, we're closing the doors." Right? You probably would come in and say, "Well, we're closing the doors." Right? So you slow the delivery down. It shows a little bit of sensitivity that you wouldn't get otherwise. Yes, sir.
Slowing the delivery down have a similar effect to lowering the volume.
It could. Yeah, there could be some trade-offs here. Now,
listen more carefully.
You do? Yeah. To some degree, just changing alerts you to something's different, right? And so changing the pitch will do that. Changing the speed will do that. So any of those changes will get some attention, yeah, to what you're doing. All right. Yes, yes, ma'am.
I wanted to ask, was also another reason for changing the speed have to do with people who have English as a second language?
Yes, actually, a very good point. The speed at which you deliver may depend on the degree of facility with the English language that your audience has. If I'm presenting to our Singapore affiliate, that I probably have to be a little slower and clearer diction-wise than I would if I'm speaking to the group that just is kind of at our speed. Yeah, good point. Good point. All right, so that's delivery speed. Now, the ultimate in variation of delivery speed is pauses. Yeah, pauses. It's almost a separate thing all itself, though. Pauses can be incredibly effective if you know exactly how to use them and when to use them. Now, clearly, you wouldn't use a pause all the time. Right? That's just kind of silly. So have a plan for your pauses. Now there's a couple ways to use pauses that I'll introduce for you here. One is, let's say that you're making a presentation and there's this one point that really is important, but it also may be a bit complex for you to understand. And there's a fellow that I work with who's a retired economist, and he's giving some speeches now about the intelligence revolution, which is the impact of automation and technology on people's jobs and on the economy in general. He has a statement in his speech that goes something like this, if I remember it right. According to a recent McKinsey study, over half of what human beings get paid to do today can be automated with today's technology. Now see how the impact of that point is something you want your audience to digest. Now in his case, which is very good, he'll come back and repeat it. Half with today's technology. But the pause allows your audience to digest what was a pretty big high impact point for them to kind of get through. So a pause can really allow your audience to process what you've been talking about. And again, you're not going to use it all the time, but there may be some points where you really want to do that. Now you can also use pauses to set up a punchline, both in a humorous context or not. Let's say that I have a joke and I don't particularly have one, but let's say that it is about somebody who did something funny at my last meeting, and I'm going to lead right up and describe everything that happened, and everybody's on the pins and needles, and you know who it was? Anna. Right? And nobody knows why that was funny, but they'll say, okay, so I get it. And it set up the punchline in a way that wouldn't have been as strong otherwise. The same thing if you do awards presentations. The winner of the Table Topics district contest is name. It just has a different impact than saying the winner of the table topics district contest is, and you say his name. So pauses can set up a point really well as well. Okay, so we're down to the funny exercise. I'm hoping I have time for this. There's a statement that, it's another paper I have on my website called Beauty is in the Vowels, Passion is in the Consonants. Right? Beauty, we all know what vowels and consonants are, right? So if I were to say, what a beautiful sunset that is, you're at the beach, I would probably not say, what a beautiful sunset that is, right? I would say, what a beautiful sunset that is. So I softened out my consonants, and I went to all vowels, and it really got the beauty, all right? But passion is in the consonants. How many of you know the give me liberty or give me death piece of the end of the Patrick Henry speech? Okay, so we're going to do that as a group, and we're going to do it this way. The key is there are 4 words: give, liberty, give, death, right, that are really important. And to make this high impact, we're going to do strong, hard consonants and long, not hard consonants. So we're going to start by saying give. So just say give. Give. Now say give. Give. Right? With that hard G. It's a lot stronger, right? So if we can say give, now we've got 2 of the 4 words because give happens twice in this, right? What if we did liberty that way? Liberty. That's kind of weird, right? Right? So there are these things called singable consonants that you could sing happy birthday on, and L is one of them. Right? For the singable consonants, instead of making them stronger, you'll make them longer. See what I just did with the L? You make them longer. So in the give me liberty or give me death, it's going to be give me liberty with a long L. Do that with me. Give me liberty. All right, that's good. And the next give we've got, so let's get to the last one, which is death. Another hard consonant, right? So give me death. Death. Again, death. Again, death. Again, death. I love this part. By now, of course, the security people have called 911, and they'll be here in a minute, right? So let's put the whole thing together. Give me liberty, give me death, right? Again, give me liberty or give me death, right? See how much stronger that is, how much more passionate that is, and it doesn't actually have to be loud to do that, right? So passionate in the consonants, beauty is in the vowels. Last factor is a really simple one. It's energy, right? Audiences are perfect mirrors. If you give them energy, they'll give it back to you. If you don't, they won't. Right? How many of you have actually heard a speech where it was kind of low energy and you either went to sleep or you started looking in your program to see who was next, right? Right. But on the other hand, somebody with a fair amount of energy, you're going to stay with them the whole way. So that's really important. Give them energy and they'll be back. Those are the 7 factors. Last thing is, how do you know whether you're doing them or not? How many of you have one of these? Not an iPhone SE, but a smartphone, right? You all do, probably. Everyone who has a smartphone, that phone has a recording app on it, right? So you do practice your speeches, right? Right? So get your phone out, hit the record button, give your speech, hit the stop button, go back and listen, and be your own best coach, right? If something isn't clicking the way you'd like it to, go back through some of these factors, or go back through the factors of how your voice sounds. Experiment with some of those and see how they'll do for you. But then go back, record again, listen again, be your own best coach. If there are some other kind of finer things that you want to do, there are lots of coaches around that will help you, but being your own best coach with that phone is usually your best approach. So that's what I have. I hope this has been helpful. What I would do is task each of you. You have your little crib sheet that was on your seat there. Go home and try some of these. Try them in your next speech. Maybe just try one. You don't want to try all 7 factors, but let's say next time I've got that one spot in my speech that I'm really going to get passionate, and I'm going to deliver it that way and see how it works. And your audience will tell you how it works. But I suspect that when you're done, you're going to discover that you love your new voice. Thank you.